Is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Brianna Tinjum, and I want to thank you for joining us for today's demo of SalesLogix version 7.5.4 and of the new SalesLogix Mobile. Your presenter today is Scott Weber of Customer FX, and I just wanted to mention a couple items before we begin. For today's demo, you'll notice that your line is on mute. However, we do encourage you to post any questions you may have to the question pane, and I will try to get to those the best I can throughout the demo. And then following our demo, if we still have more that are unanswered, I will pass them along to Scott, and we can try and get through as many as we can. But other than that, I am going to turn it over to Scott, and we can begin.
Great. Thank you, Brianna. So I just need to make myself the presenter. Is that true?
Yeah, you should have the controls.
All right. Let me know if you can see my screen.
Not yet.
Okay. Here we go. I click the button. Now?
Now we can. Yep.
Okay. Well, thank you for that introduction. And again, thanks everyone for joining us. This is a brief overview. It's a hands-on demonstration of the 7.5.4 new features. There's lots of documentation that Sage always publishes around these new releases, but I really like to show the features firsthand right in the software, and so that's kind of the point of today's presentation. It's not a comprehensive SalesLogix demo by any means, but a 15 or 20 minute is what we're planning, focus on just what is net new functionality that's been brought into the latest release of the web client and mobile client. SalesLogix has continued the pattern of migrating more and more features and functions that are and have been present in the LAN or the Windows client over into the web client, and we think that's all great. And in many cases, certainly in a lot of what I'll show you today, they've not only migrated those features over into the web client, they've made them better, so they had a chance to kind of revisit the functionality and improve it. And I think they really overall have done a good job and continue to do that. So that's really what 7.5.4 is a continuation of the migration of features and functions from the LAN version into the web. And it's about 95% there as far as a complete holistic replacement with just a few little features left, and then it's, I would say, truly complete. Okay, so with that said, I'm just sort of going to walk through these in no particular order, and as Brianna said, if you do have any questions about anything you're seeing, by all means post it in the questions area. We'll try to maybe answer those as we go through, and certainly we'll do that at the end as well. One of the first things I'll show you is the improvements that they've made to the Notes and History tab. And to me, that certainly is one of the most fundamental useful tabs and sets of data that you're going to see in SalesLogix's history. It's a roll-up of all the communications that are relevant to an account or a contact or an opportunity, but in previous versions, it lacked a couple of the really nice key features that the LAN client had, but now the web client has them, and actually I think even as, again, a slightly better execution of it. So looking at the Notes History tab for Abbott Limited, what's new now is this little blue funnel, which represents a filter. And if I click on that, it pops open some extra fields on the tab that allow me to do some sorting and some filtering of all the data that I'm seeing in the history. In addition to that, I have a checkbox where I can turn on or off database changes. As you know, any field in SalesLogix has the ability to track changes that not only shows you the previous value of the field, but who changed it and when they change it. And so if you do have that turned on, any of those change records which are in the database tables now do display in the history. And I think the reason why they allow you to adjust that or shut it off is that it could represent an awful lot of changes, and certainly that's true from what you're seeing here for Abbott Limited. There's a lot of database changes that would sort of plug up my history tab otherwise, which maybe I don't really care to see these as opposed to regular customer interactions. But nevertheless, here's the database changes now intermixed with my traditional history items. And then just by unchecking that and clicking apply, the database changes go away. Likewise, I can do things like filter on maybe a particular user. What I like about this is rather than it actually making me pick a user from a lookup, I can actually just do, for example, type in a letter L and hit apply. And it instantly gives me all the history for Abbott Limited from any SalesLogix user that has an L in their name. And so it's more than just those that start with an L. And so that's exactly what you're seeing here. I don't know if there is more than one in the demo, but that's exactly how it works. You can also double filter because you can put in more than one filter value by just putting data in there, and I'm not sure if it's going to bring me anything in this case. Let me try something simpler here. So there we go. So now any user that has a description with a letter P in it, that's what you're going to see in my filter. Other things that they've added here, we can turn the filter back off, is we can reset it and clear it, hide that panel. We can also send out an email, and by doing that, we would highlight one or more of these history records. We'll just pick on the top one, choose email it, and if you're logged into Outlook, it's going to go ahead and bring up an email. Should be coming up here. So there we go. So what it's done is it's scraped the data from that particular history record, and it's put it in an Outlook email in case I needed to forward that to my boss or a colleague or to a client from a conversation we maybe had in the past. And similar to that feature is the ability to export to Word. And we can hold the Shift key down and highlight the first 4. And then if I click on this icon that says Send to Word, it is going to take all the notes and information in those first 4 history records and create a Microsoft Word template, or rather a document for me. I think. There we go. And so now you can actually see it sort of doing it in slow motion here in the background. It's creating my Word doc and scraping all 4 of those history records. And again, you can do whatever you want to do with this. Fax it, email it, print it, save it somewhere else. It's just a way to quickly export data out of the history and put it into a format that's maybe a little more portable. All right, and then in addition, you can also add new notes on the fly down here by clicking on an Add New Note. And you can also complete activities now with a Complete Activity button. So you don't have to actually open up the highlighted item. You can actually do it right from the screen. Okay, next thing I'm going to show you I think is a pretty exciting feature, and I think a really powerful feature. And it has to do with being able to check for duplicate records in the system and then merge those duplicate records. And I'm logged in today as an administrator, and I've been granted the ability as an administrator to run the deduplication wizard, which means you can also grant this position or authority to other users in the system who maybe are your data gatekeepers or whatever you want to call them. And so they too could have the option under their tools menu to do this check for duplicates wizard. So we'll go ahead and fire that off, and I'll kind of step you through how this new functionality works. And the first thing it's going to do in this 4-step wizard is ask me which one of the data entities I'm actually doing the dupe check on. And so you can do it at the account level, the lead level, or the contact level, your choice. And you can also do it within a particular group of records that you may have built, or you can do it against all the contacts in the database if you want. Now, this takes a little while to run, and it does hit your database pretty hard when it's doing it. So you just have to be a little bit aware of that it does put a bit of a load on your SalesLogix system when this is running. So I'm just going to pick a small group that I created, and it's just called Blast Number 1. And now on the next screen, it does ask me again, well, do I want to stay within the contacts area, or do I want to also incorporate the leads area or the account area so it can actually span beyond the entity we're starting from and incorporate data in those other 2 entity areas. And now down under the match filter area, we can simply tell it what to look for in its ability to present to us potential duplicates. So it's asking me, what do I think would constitute a duplicate? And so I'm able to adjust this. And for today's demo, I'm just going to pick on first name and state because I know that's going to return some values. Now, in addition to that, I can go into this advanced match area and ask it to incorporate some additional heavy-duty types of identifications for duplicates, such as stemming, which is grammatical forms of a similar word, phonics, words that sound the same but are spelled different, and then synonyms, taking you back to grade school English. It can incorporate a thesaurus to help you find words that mean the same thing. And in this particular case, by default, we're using what's called fuzzy logic, which is a common method for identifying duplicate records. And you can adjust the aggressiveness of the fuzzy logic by picking a scale of 1 through 10. We're just going to go ahead and go with the defaults here. And we can also set at the top specific thresholds. So what that's doing is it's telling SalesLogix that I feel that a record has to at least have a score of an 80 before I'm going to ask it to present it to me as a potential duplicate. In other words, if it doesn't score at least an 80, don't even put it on the list because I think those are not duplicates. So we're going to go ahead and go with that selection and choose next. And basically this is just a review, so we're going to hit submit. And this does take a few seconds, like I said, to run because it is sweeping through all 80 records that are in that group and comparing them to the other 80 records. So it does take a little bit of horsepower for this to run. So Brandon, maybe you could hum a little Jeopardy music for us? No?
No.
Okay, sorry. Bad idea. We'll just let it run. It's worth it, believe me. Okay, we're almost there. So when it's all done here, it ends up building us a group. Ta-da! So here we come. It is a group of potential duplicates. Now, that was not a very realistic duplicate check that I did because there's going to be a lot of people with the same name in the same state, and I knew that. But I just wanted to show you that it does produce a pretty big list of potential duplicates. So what it's saying here, let's pick on the first one. It's saying that Mike Anders and Mike Velasquez could be a duplicate because they have the same first name and they're in the same state. I know they're not, but I wanted to show you that as an example. And so what it's also saying is not only is he potentially a duplicate, there's 10 of them. So it found 10 Mikes in the database in the same state. And so for Mike Anders, he's got all these different Mikes that he might be a duplicate of. And step number 2 is we need to resolve these. And as you can see, there's a hyperlink. So if I click on the job results hyperlink, it now lets me pick on Mike Anders, the first person, and it shows me at the bottom of the list the 10 people, the 10 other Mikes, that it's thinking might be a duplicate of his. It still isn't doing anything about it, but rather just presenting it to me as possibilities. Now what I can do is say, you know what, I'm going to agree that Mike Anders is really Mike Short, that's his alias. So I'm going to say I'm going to merge those guys together. If I click on that screen, it now presents me with those two records side by side. But instead of just merging them, I have the option to pick the source and the target, which one I want to keep, which one I want to throw away. And I can also build one master record out of the 2 records. I think that's valuable because the one I'm planning to throw away, maybe it's got a mobile phone number in the original record I'm keeping, the primary one doesn't, or something like that. So you have the ability now to go through this and pick and choose using these radio buttons, and the end result is going to be that you're going to have one perfect master record, and then the other record is discarded. Now, that's a lot of work, and I understand that. And so what they allow you to do as an administrator is run these deduplication jobs and then also assign the process duplicate records job to another user. You don't have to deal with all these duplicates right this minute. You can work at these over time even if you log in and out of SalesLogix, it built a group and kept a record now of the results of all of that. And so I can even ask other users in the system. I could ask Brianna to go ahead and now, okay, check this group, and I'd like you to go through and work on this for me if you could. And so that's what this all dedupe results is. It's a list of all the dupes it thinks it found that have not yet been processed, which means I agreed or disagreed to dupe, and they would have dropped off the list if I did that. And so, again, this is just an ongoing list of duplicates that are potential, and any of the users can work on these if they're granted the rights to do that. Okay, pretty neat feature, I think. That's been a long time coming, and I'm glad they finally put that in the web client, and they did just a super job of doing it. I think it's one of the best out there now. Next, I'll show you, not quite as exciting of a feature, but nevertheless a nice little change that they made. I think enough people grumbled about this one that they finally said, okay, fine, we'll change it. And what it is, they increased the size of the notes field in all the activity views. It was a little 2-line box in all previous views, and it had to do a lot of scrolling. And so they finally, I think, said, okay, fine, we'll make it bigger. A simple change, but worthwhile pointing out nonetheless. So that's what we mean by a notes field improvement. Next thing I'll show you is the What's New area. This is a great feature, too, one that I always thought was valuable from the very early days of SalesLogix, because think of it as a dashboard, because that's really what it is. It's a list of all the things that have been added or changed in the SalesLogix system after the date that you put in this top field. And so if you put yesterday's date in there and you log in today and choose search, it's going to show you everything that's new or different since yesterday. That way I don't have to go looking for stuff. I don't have to run reports to find that out. I can see everything that I think is important to see, maybe related to my account, right here on this view. It used to be available only on the remote client, and then they brought it on to the regular network clients, and it's been in the web client. But what's even better now, and the improvement in 7.5.4, is that in addition to accounts and contacts and everything you see here, if you added a new entity into your system, like maybe you added a project module or something like that, you can actually now modify the What's New area to include other filters and other entities in the system. And one of them I can think of right off would be sales orders. That's a net new top-level entity in SalesLogix, and you could easily add that as another data set that's available in the What's New area. So it's kind of like they released the source code for this so that as developers, you can go in and modify this What's New area. That's all great. Next thing I'll show you is editable grids, and I would say this one is about time. And what that means is any place in SalesLogix that you have one-to-many data, those are tabs or views that are presenting one-to-many data like this product list view in the opportunities, in all previous versions, the only way I could modify these items in these rows is I would have to open up this edit view, which pops up a window. Now I can make my edits, and then I got to click OK. But what they've been able to do now is throughout the system, we have what are called editable grids. So without opening that up, instead of 500, maybe they said, well, I really only need 400. So I can type in a number in there, and when I click away, it's kept my change, and I still have to save it, which you do for any record in SalesLogix before you leave the screen. But it allowed me to make that change just by clicking into the field and highlighting what I wanted to change, like quantity or pricing. If I want to maybe increase the price on this, just make my change on the fly, save it, and I get to see my results right now on the screen. And then, again, that's a great feature that's sprinkled throughout the program, but this is just one of the obvious areas. I think it makes great sense. There's a couple other things I could talk a little bit about, but I really can't show you because, frankly, there's nothing to show. It's just new back-end functionality that they've added into the system. And one of them is the simplification of installing and upgrading. If you're using disconnected web clients for your users that are road warriors and have a laptop and they don't have high-speed internet access everywhere they go, but they still need their SalesLogix. You can have them be a disconnected client. They have a mini version of the database on their laptop. They actually created a one-click install of all that now. So rather than having to send out CDs or DVDs or have them download software, they can literally install their offline client, including the data, just by clicking in the appropriate area in SalesLogix in their preferences actually, and become an offline disconnected client, assuming their administrator has enabled that feature on there for their user login. So again, cuts down on cost and maintenance to keep the system functioning. The other tool that we're excited about, and again, I can't show you it because it's literally a DOS screen, which anybody who knows what that is has been around in computers at least as long as I have. It's a upgrade discovery tool. Upgrades in SalesLogix can be painful and can be expensive if you have customizations, which everybody does. That's one of the powerful features of the system. It's highly customizable, but it makes upgrades painful and expensive, possibly. And so what they've done is they've created an upgrade discovery tool, and it really does two things. It allows you or your business partner to compare your current SalesLogix system to the newest SalesLogix system. So example would be if you're going from 7.5.2 to 7.5.4 and you have customizations, if you run the discovery tool, it will do two things. It will, first of all, build a project backup for you of all of your customized area of SalesLogix that do not conflict with anything in the new 7.5.4 version. So what that means is it saves a lot of work and a lot of investigation and a lot of testing and a lot of digging around and comparison work by a technical person, because it simply goes ahead and migrates all the customizations in your 7.2 system that it can without you having to do anything. Just migrates them in using the tool. And what's left now is it creates a report or a catalog of all the customizations in your current system that need something done to them, some kind of retrofitting or updating. They couldn't be migrated over without touching them. So it gives the technician a report on, here's all the things I migrated successfully without you needing to do anything. And number two, here's a report of everything custom that does require your attention of some kind. This can greatly reduce, if not completely eliminate, any cost for building and identifying customizations when you're doing these upgrades, which can absolutely be an expensive part of any upgrade. So we're thrilled about this tool, and we've been testing it heavily in our shop, and preliminary reports are all good. It seems to function as advertised. We're not 100% done with all that yet, but it's looking like a huge step in the right direction for SalesLogix. Okay, next thing I'll show you in the client here is integration. And SalesLogix, and I'll back up and say Sage as a business software company has adopted a proprietary web services-based API data exchange mechanism called SData, S-D-A-T-A. And it is a common language that all of their software applications are adopting. SalesLogix has it and has had it for a while, and they are in the process of adding SData capabilities to their ERP software like Peachtree, Mass 9200 and 500, and so forth. And SalesLogix now comes standard with Mass 500 integration using SData. In fact, it includes all of the tables and field structure that is already in this 7.5.4 version for a mass integration, and the SData feeds are already built and in place. I will say it's not quite finished yet from the mass side of the house, but I know that that is coming, it's imminent, and it won't be long, and you literally will be able to point SalesLogix at your Mac system and say, okay, here's where it is, and I want to be integrated, turn it on, and away it goes. And I really believe it's going to work as well as I just said, because SData is a proven entity, and it's already the foundation of their whole mobile client. It's all based on the SData technology that we're going to show you next. So exciting things to come, and hopefully what will finally be a very simple way to integrate ERP systems with CRM. Okay, so with that, I'm going to jump to the mobile client and see if that's still working. I think it is. Okay, sometimes it boots me out if I don't move around. So there's a few changes that they've added in the mobile client. Again, they're continuing to widen and deepen the feature set of the mobile client, and I'm just going to point out a few of the, I finally have those kind of features in there. One of them would be that they've now added a graphical calendar. And so the calendar allows you to see on the calendar in a month view, in a day view, and then you can also click on a particular date, and if there are any activities scheduled for that day, you'd see those there as well. So they do now have a graphical calendar that's part of the mobile client. And again, the mobile client, I'll just remind you, is a device agnostic, doesn't care. As long as your mobile device supports an HTML5 browser, you can use this just like you're seeing me do today on this iPad emulator. So that includes iPhones, Androids, some of the BlackBerry devices, and a lot of the other Android tablets and things that are hitting the market at low prices should work fine in all of those. They're all HTML5. You can also now complete activities, and so I'll show you that if we go into one of our accounts. I like to pick out Abbott Limited because I know there's lots of data in there. And if I go into an activity record, I can highlight, let's say, this dinner meeting, for example, and I can complete that activity just by clicking on the Complete Activity button. And so in addition to scheduling activities, I can now complete them. And it's more than that, too, because I can also ask it to schedule a follow-up for me. So you can go ahead and schedule a follow-up right on here if you want to. So as a follow-up to that meeting, I need to make a phone call to ask them how they like their dinner, for example. And once I'm done filling all that out, I can just hit save. It's now moved that activity over to history and created the follow-up activity for me all in one or two clicks here. Okay, so we'll go back to the opportunity-related products. That's the next new feature that they've added in, is in the opportunity area. If I go into an existing opportunity, I have the ability to edit the opportunity and all the one-to-one fields on it, but they've also now added the products. So I get to see the products that are part of that opportunity. You could not in previous versions. In this version you can. You get to see the products. Now, you can't add new products yet. That's coming. But you can at least now see all the products that are existing for a particular opportunity. So that's a nice change that they've added. One other thing they've added is the ability to do a one-click call to a mobile number. So if I go into my contacts area and we go to John Abbott, I can not only call his landline, I can now call his mobile number. So they've added that by default. A simple change, nice to have. One other feature is Notes and History. This is the What's New area. Just like we saw over in the web client, the What's New area is now in the mobile. What I'm looking at here is a roll-up, a chronological list of all of the new history and notes that have been added into SalesLogix for any of the records that I want on my mobile device. So this is a way for me to monitor what's going on with my customers, what's been added, what are people saying to them, what are we doing, what are the notes and emails and phone calls that are happening with my accounts. And I can also search on any of these as well by putting in keywords and phrases. You can apply these filters to search for something specific if you want. Okay, I think, Brianna, I've made it all the way through. My list is over, and I'd like to keep going, but We've actually burned up more time than I said. My apologies for running this a little bit long, but are there any questions that have been asked that are not answered?
Yes, I've been trying to get to many of them, but they keep coming in. I was just in the process of typing out a response, so maybe you can just take this up.
Sure.
Okay, can this migration tool be used for 7.2 to 7.5.4, and is there an added expense for the discovery tool?
Yes, it can be used for any SalesLogix web or LAN system that is going to end up in 7.5.4. That's the key. You have to end up in 7.5.4, and I don't know why you wouldn't want to, because that's the latest, greatest version. And so the answer is yes. It more appropriately should be named the 7.5.4 migration tool, because that's really what it's the only version it works with against other previous 7.x versions of SalesLogix.
Okay, and I might need to just confirm with you about using it for moving from LAN to web, because I believe it's only for within the web versions, but we can
You're right.
get confirmation.
You're right. I misspoke on that. It is web only. It does not deal with any LAN-based customization. You can use it to migrate to the web, but it will not examine LAN-based customizations in your source. That's exactly true.
Okay. And is there an added expense for this?
No. No added expense. It's free to download once it's released. It's kind of in a late beta right now. They're actually making changes to it as some of the partners are finding some, little bugs here and there that they want fixed, and they are aggressively fixing those literally on the fly for us. So we believe it'll be in a kind of a final, ready-to-go version, really maybe within a few days.
Okay, I just want to make sure while we're on the topic that I'm not missing any other discovery migration tools. Oh, here's one for, okay, somebody was asking, and actually we've had two of these questions, where can we find the discovery tool?
GitHub. So you have to, right now, and I'm not, to be honest, I'm not sure if you can get to it. But SalesLogix has a site on a web collaboration called GitHub, GITHUB.com, and I'm not positive that a non-business partner can join Sage's GitHub group, but that's currently where the software resides, is on that. So I apologize, I don't know the answer to whether or not you can go get it from GitHub.
Yeah, probably not quite yet, since they're still making some changes, but we do anticipate
you can try
that soon. Yeah.
I'm
going to move it back to some questions we had about the duplicate wizard that I wasn't able to get to. I have a question here asking if within the duplicate wizard you can look for a specific name. I believe you might have touched on this, but if you want to just reiterate.
No, it's not a lookup on a specific name, but you can do that now without running the wizard. You can go into the regular contact lookup and search for Scott, and it's going to show you all the Scotts in the database, and then you can highlight the two, right-click, and merge them right there on the fly.
Yep. All right, and then another one for that duplicate wizard is wondering if it will pick up custom fields. If you can search for your duplicates on custom fields.
I don't know the answer to that. My guess is that you could modify it because it is open and available to us. Those views and screens are available to us. I'm going to say I don't know the answer rather than give the wrong answer, but we will find out and post a blog on our website what the answer to that is. It's a great question. I just don't know for sure. I'm thinking you can, but I don't want to be wrong.
All right. Let me see. We did have some come in wondering about with some mobile questions. Okay. Will the new Windows 8 tablets be supported?
You know, I'm not sure about that one either, because it seems that Microsoft is anti-HTML5. I don't know if that's still true, but there seems to be some fighting between Apple and Microsoft Flash versus HTML5. And I don't know if the new Mobile 8 OS has HTML5 support in its native browsers. I don't know the answer for that one for sure either. And again, I'll find out and post a blog entry on our website to the answer for that.
All right. Are custom groups available for the web, or I'm sorry, for mobile?
Not yet. Nope. That is on the roadmap to have the custom groups available. In fact, even having groups and filters from your web client migrate over as part of the core application. That's on the roadmap. Unfortunately, today the only thing you can do is a wildcard or a one-off on-the-fly search, and that's it. But it's coming.
Okay. Another mobile question. Oh, and I just lost it. Let's pull this back up again. Okay, here we go. Okay. It was mentioned that notes history shows notes for accounts which are on the user's mobile device. Is there really customer data stored on the mobile device? Or is it pulled from the database as the user is navigating in real time?
You know, the answer to that is actually both, because you are able to establish or reserve an amount of RAM on your mobile device that you're willing to allow your browser to keep offline data. And it's actually a function of HTML5 on these mobile devices. You can establish a half a meg or whatever it is that you want to allow it to store. And what it will do is it'll actually keep a history of all the data on every screen you visited until that cache is full, and then it'll keep throwing out the oldest data. So HTML5-based browsers actually have native data caching built into them, and so it's sort of a combination of what you're asking, and the answer or the end result is yes, they store offline data, but you can't say, give me some of this and give me some of that. It's automatically caching every web page you visited and any data on those pages, including in the SalesLogix mobile, until your cache is full or you clear it out.
All right. Let's see. Do we have? Well, let's see. I think we might be coming to the end. Oh, here's another one. Scott mentioned a web user could become a remote web user disconnected if the administrator has enabled that feature for the user, and the user could easily turn on the ability to disconnect. Could you describe how that works if the user doesn't have a local database engine installed? Where does the data go?
It's a great question. It actually installs a version of, I think it's MySQL. It's changed a couple times with different revisions, but it actually does install a SQL-like database engine on the laptop, and so that becomes the client-server architecture that's supporting the data when they are offline. And so, and again, that all happens now in 7.5.4, literally with the clicking of an icon in the options panel that a user can request to go offline or become disconnected. And upon doing that, it installs the SQL-like database engine and all the data that they're eligible to see offline, which can be based on a group or a filter they create. And then it also installs the web server component on there for hosting a local website on their laptop. And so they really get a full-blown client-server database, web server engine all installed on their laptop. And then from then on, it automatically synchronizes with the home database or home site whenever they are reconnected to the internet.
All right. We have just a couple more here, Scott. Another question about mobile app is, how do you select accounts you want on your mobile app for select reps? Is this possible?
Well, you have the ability to see on the mobile every record you have access to on your web client. So as long as you're on a team that owns the record, you have the ability to see that record and all the secondary data that's part of that record on the mobile device. But it's a little bit different if you come from the school of being able to build a group of records in the remote client where you can say, I want this group of records, subscribe to these, and have these on my remote database. It's different than that in that with the mobile SalesLogix, it is like breadcrumbs. So it remembers every record you visited on the mobile device. What you can't do yet is say, hey, put all of my customers in Minnesota on mobile. You can't do that yet unless you navigate to every one of your Minnesota customers on the mobile device before you go offline. That's not very practical, and so it's not quite as sophisticated as the actual offline, SalesLogix web client yet, but that is planned to be able to allow it to store offline data based on a group of records. That's coming.
Great. Well, Scott, I had a couple duplicate questions in there that I hadn't erased yet, so that was the last one.
Okay. Fantastic.
So if we don't hear anything else, let me see.
Oh, one last question came in. If you want to show your organization the iPad iPhone emulator, you can go to this site. It's literally called iPad-emulator.com, and this is a live iPad or iPhone emulator, and then all you have to do is put in the URL for the mobile site, and if you don't have SalesLogix Mobile yet at your organization, you can sign up for a cloud trial for free from Sage. If you go to the Customer FX website and click on free Sage trial at the bottom, it will actually give you a fully functioning cloud and mobile environment with demo data, and then you can go to this iPad-emulator.com and show your colleagues exactly what I'm showing you today, because that's what I'm using and it's all free. So a very easy way to do a proof of concept for your team.
Great. And if any of you out there have questions about that, feel free to send Scott or I an email. Most of you should have that from the invites I've sent you, or simply info@customerfx.com, and we can send that information over to you.
All right.
All right. Well, I think that we're going to wrap it up. We are coming to the end of our demo here. Any questions that come in after this, we'll take those down and we'll try and get back to you via email with those answers. But thank you very much, Scott, for your time today. It was a great demo, and we hope that everybody learned something about 7.5.4 and the mobile client.
Sounds good. Thanks, everybody. Appreciate your time. Bye-bye.
Goodbye.